channel. I am Heather Tiemann. I'm a realtor down here in the beautiful Lexington, Columbia area of South Carolina. And today we're going to be talking about 5 questions that I am asked most often about moving to South Carolina. But before we get started, I'm going to ask if you could please like and subscribe to my channel. I greatly appreciate it. We have a goal of 550 subscribers by the end of 2025, and we are over 500 now. So yay, we're almost there. I really appreciate all the love and support, guys. You guys have been absolutely amazing. So let's hop on into this. So there are going to be some questions that I can't legally answer. So top 2 right off the bat. Is it safe? And our schools are good or bad? I can't answer that. And no realtor should be answering that. And if your realtor is answering that, they're not supposed to be. So definitely keep that in mind when asking these questions. And it's also a little unfair as well, because even if they have children, they probably only have experience in very specific schools. They would not have experience in every school in a district or every school in a county. They would just be going based off of hearsay. So just something to keep in mind there. And they would just have their own experience in whatever town they live in or whatever town they have lived in. So that's kind of why they don't really allow us to say if an area is safe or unsafe or if schools are good or bad, because it's based off of personal opinion at the end of the day. And then there's also test scores and stuff, but you're able to find that information pretty easily online. And I do recommend talking with other parents that have kids at those schools to get a more accurate representation and listen to everybody's opinion, because even at the best school in the world, there's going to be someone that has a bad experience, and even at the worst school in the world, there's someone that's had the most amazing experience. So something to keep in mind when you are asking these questions. But I can't answer those. But you can ask those questions in my moving to Lexington, South Carolina, moving to Irmo, South Carolina, and moving to Chapin, South Carolina Facebook groups. Shameless plug there. So feel free to ask those questions there and kind of get everybody's opinions on those. But go ahead. Number 1, a very common question we get in the Columbia, Lexington area of South Carolina is, are there alligators in Lake Murray? While I cannot promise you there are absolutely no alligators in Lake Murray, I have never heard of a confirmed sighting, and I swim in the lake all the time, never seen an alligator. I do know that in our rivers there have been confirmed sightings of alligators. Never any incidents with it that I know of, or I've seen any news articles about or anything like that, but I do truly believe that there are alligators in our rivers. I do not necessarily believe there are alligators in Lake Murray. Could there be? There's always a possibility, but I wouldn't say they're very prevalent, even if there are, and very likely they're like in a cove away from people. So definitely something to keep in mind there. Never seen an alligator. I'm a South Carolina native, and I've never ran across an alligator. So kind of give you an idea, they're not super common here. Along the coast, definitely a lot more prevalent. You're definitely going to see them a lot more often. Never actually see them there either. However, I don't spend a lot of time in the marshy areas or swamps, mostly along the beaches. So very unlikely that you'll run into them here, because they are pretty rare if you run into them at all. So keep that in mind. That's a question I've been getting asked a lot lately. Number 2, vehicle property taxes. We talk about this all the time. You should know by now, but I'm going to talk about it because I still see comments from people saying they ain't never heard of this. Every year we pay vehicle property taxes. It is based off of basically the value of your car. The newer the car, the higher value, the higher the property taxes. The older the car, the lower the value, the lower the property taxes. We pay these every year. It is also based off of what district you're in and where you live. So it's a lot higher in some areas, it's lower in other areas. The difference between Lexington 1 and Lexington 2, vastly different. Much cheaper in Lexington 2 than it is in Lexington 1. So something to keep in mind when you are making that consideration. And then property taxes for their house. So a lot of people should realize this by now, but it's still a question that gets brought up a lot. When you move here, you have to file to be a legal residence, and this is your primary residence. You have to certify that this is your primary residence. When you purchase a home, it automatically assumes that you are not a legal residence. You have to prove that you are. And you prove that you are by changing over your car registration and changing over your driver's license and filling out the legal residency form, either at the tax assessor's office or online. It's pretty easy to do. Just get it done. Kind of going back to the vehicle taxes for a second, your first year here, your initial year here, it will be a bit more expensive because there is also a $250 infrastructure fee per vehicle. So it's definitely something to keep in mind and be prepared for when you're moving here. I feel redundant in saying this over and over again, but there are still people that don't realize this is happening. So I like to bring it up because maybe this is the first video that you're watching from me and you haven't seen all my other videos and you're not on my Moving to Lexington page. So I always like to bring it up because I feel like it is very important because it's not cheap. Like it is quite costly. So it is definitely something that you want to be prepared for. Number 3, a lot of people ask, is it actually cheaper to live here? Yes and no. So our home prices, significantly cheaper for the most part. And obviously, this is all compared to where you're coming from. But nationally, we do have some of the lower home prices, especially in the Lexington, Columbia area. Once you head out towards the coast, it does get more expensive. Lake properties obviously are more expensive, but generally speaking, the Lexington, Columbia area is very affordable as far as home prices go and what you're getting for those home prices. Property taxes for our real estate, if it is your primary residence, very low and very reasonably priced. I hear a lot of people say that groceries are a lot more expensive here than they are in other states, but I've actually compared this not too long ago, a while back that I compared this, and they're kind of like this. They're neck and neck. Some things are a little more expensive, but some things are a little bit cheaper. So I don't necessarily think that groceries are more expensive here than they are in other places. I think many people may have moved here pre-pandemic and then prices quickly rose, and maybe that's that mindset there, or they don't realize that grocery prices raised everywhere. But I've kind of looked into that a good bit, and I find that grocery store prices are pretty similar across the board. Unless, of course, you live in like a touristy area, then we may be a little bit cheaper. Gas tends to be a bit cheaper here. The vehicle tax, it's costly. It's definitely costly. It's going to be a lot more expensive than, say, even if you have a registration fee that you have to pay every year. So that is something to keep in mind. Hair services and nail services, I hear that those are a lot more expensive here than they are in other areas. I've never had my nails done or my hair done in other areas, but that is what I hear. That is significantly more expensive here than it is in other places. I have my hair done pretty regularly. Money piece, partial highlight, root smudge, haircut. Normally runs me about $140, $150 for that. So to kind of give you an idea, I know you're surprised that I'm not a natural blonde, but I'm not. I'm sorry to break it to you guys. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what it generally would cost. Shout out Angela Sargent at Adorn Salon. She's phenomenal. But obviously, other salons may be more expensive. Other salons may be cheaper. Just depends on where you're going and how much they cost. Normally, like a gel nail, I think is like $50 or $60. When I was getting them done, I haven't had them done in like 6-8 months, but that was roughly the price that I was paying for it, to kind of give you an idea there. Car insurance, that's a big one. Car insurance is much more expensive here than it is in other areas. So definitely something to keep in mind when you're moving here. South Carolina, not the best drivers, apparently. According to insurance companies, we ain't great. So our insurance prices are a bit higher. If you're in a flood zone or near closer to the coast, your homeowner's insurance could be a little more expensive. I think a lot of people may have a sticker shock when they moved here from their old state, thinking that homeowner's insurance is so much more expensive here. But again, that was one of those things that rose very quickly over the last year or two nationally. So that may be why it was kind of a sticker shock when you move here. Let's see. Number 4. A lot of people ask about bugs and weather. If you've listened to my channel before, you already know what I'm going to talk about here. It's hot, it is humid, and we got lots of bugs. All the bugs. Every single one of them. They're here. Right here in South Carolina. They're all here. Be prepared for that. Summer, it can be uncomfortable. Stay in the AC. Everywhere has AC here. There is, go out in the lake, go to the community pool. We do not have a ton of public pool options. Something to keep in mind there. That is a big complaint for the area, and our lake doesn't have a ton of public access to it. We have the Lake Murray Public Park, which you need a reservation for, and then Dreher Island State Park, and that's really your only 2 public beach accesses. Pine Island should be opening up this October, which will open us up a little bit more, but a lot of people come here thinking we have a ton of public beach access to Lake Murray, and we don't actually have that. So keep that in mind. Kind of going with weather, a lot of people ask about hurricanes and tornadoes. We do occasionally get hurricanes. Helene just came through, and that was, I believe, the worst hurricane since Hugo back in 1989. And that was pretty rough. It wasn't as bad for us as it was for North Carolina, but we did get hit pretty hard. I was without power for 6 days, almost a week. A lot of trees came down, a lot of houses were destroyed, and it really did kind of devastate the area a little bit. So definitely something to keep in mind. Most of the time, by the time it makes it this far inland, Helene kind of took a weird turn that doesn't normally happen with hurricanes. Normally they're coming from our coast. And by the time they make it this far inland, they're really just a tropical storm or a bad thunderstorm. So for me, hurricanes are not my biggest concern because 1, they very rarely ever happen, and 2, Helene was the worst one that's happened in my 30-something years of life. So something to keep in mind there. Tornadoes are another one that we get asked about a lot. We do have tornadoes. We're not in Tornado Alley, but South Carolina does get tornadoes. Again, it's one of those things I've never actually experienced, but there have been tornadoes that touched down close to where I was, but I've never actually experienced it. Normally, they're very small tornadoes that don't really do any kind of widespread damage. Most of the time, it's just, a tree or 2 here and there. Nothing too terribly crazy, and they're normally very short. So I wouldn't be too terribly concerned about tornadoes here. My husband's been here 21 years, and I've been here my entire life, and neither one of us have ever seen a tornado. Okay, and then someone did ask me to cover veteran benefits, and if you're a 100% disabled veteran. So it kind of goes back to the property taxes. So if you are a 100% disabled veteran, you do not have to pay property taxes on your real estate here in South Carolina. You do have to apply for that yearly. So something to keep in mind. How many times I'm going to say that this video? I feel like I've said that a lot. I'm sorry. And then up to 2 vehicles, you do not have to pay property taxes for. There are some stipulations with that. Look up those stipulations prior to saying, Heather said this. Look up those stipulations and make sure that you qualify for that. And then going back to weather, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry, guys. I have things written down and I did not do a good job of organizing them, but I did want to talk about this. And people asked, does it snow in South Carolina? And we did get a snow this past winter, but that was probably the first snow in years. So we actually had a good snow this winter. Like, weather's been kind of crazy this year, I'm not gonna lie. We had a hurricane, we got snow, it's been exceptionally hot. So I don't know what's going on with our weather this year, but we did have snow this year. Occasionally it snows. Not enough that you have to shovel anything, but it does occasionally snow. And then, are there a lot of kids, my last question, are there a lot of kids activities in sports leagues? Yes. Yes, there are so many kids sports leagues. Honestly, not even just kids sports leagues. There's adult sports leagues as well. Soccer, baseball, volleyball, football. Did I say baseball? Like, we have sports. The South loves them some sports. So tons of rec centers have sports options, a lot of private companies, the schools. You'll never run out of different sports options for your kids. As far as kids activities go, it's a little less for teens, but for, 13 and under, we do have a good amount of options. Riverbank Zoo, adventure, trampoline parks, ice skating rink. We do have some like roller skating rinks. We have arcades. We have movie theaters, all pretty close to where we live. Then you have the lake, you have the river walks, you have parks and playgrounds. So I find that I always have something to do with my kids in this area. I never really run out of things to do. But if you have something in your hometown that we may not have that here, but we do have other options that may be a good fit for you. So that is my 5 questions that I'm asked a lot about moving here. If you have a question and you want me to cover in another video, drop a comment down below and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. But until next time, bye!